campers, back again.
Part 2, tea break.
Oh, yeah, we needed a cup of tea, man. Come on. You just said earlier, when it comes to the Central Intelligence Agency, you don't really know what they're on about or what they're actually trying to say, or when you're trying to figure something out as such.
Yeah, I think it's important to try and understand the systems, the structure in the systems, and how the agency works, how the components relate to each other. And,
How does the agency work?
That's a big question. Considering I'm still learning, I don't think any one person can get to the core. There's just no. I suppose if you went, a great sort of guidebook would be their HRs, which are their headquarters regulations, which have been released piecemeal. We do get some of it. And it's written in very dense prose. It's very much in CIA speak. So
Very opaque then.
Yeah. But maybe a little bit clearer than some of the stuff they release. So you would learn something.
Don't you find it frustrating? The constant hunt for information? I mean, at least I'm lucky because I deal mostly with FBI, DPD, a little bit of Secret Service stuff, yeah, because of my subject matter. You have changed your subject matter or evolved or progressed from Dallas to the FBI to Cuba to Warren Commission, and then all of a sudden you do the Central Intelligence Agency.
Yeah, but that's really in response to that mantra. CIA did it. I want to know how things worked within the agency, the personalities involved, the components involved, the systems in place.
It's very easy to say that.
Yeah.
The CIA did it.
Yeah.
Lazy people do that. Just in one sentence trying to recap everything and just go, there you go. So here's my question. Did the CIA do it? I couldn't resist.
I don't think the assassination or cover-up could have been carried out without some participation.
Yeah, I'm more of the opinion that it's a group of people
I think it's
spread.
I think it's highly compartmentalized. Highly compartmentalized. For sure.
We're all waiting for Monty to come in, but no.
Not yet.
Not yet. But yeah, I mean, that's of course pure speculation, and this is also a little bit the Oliver Stone style train of thought as such, and almost everyone follows that train of thought. Some good has come out of that, I have to admit, but also for that same goodness, there's also been some awful shit has come out as well. Just absolutely terrible conspiratorial stuff without the backing up of any evidence whatsoever. Purely beliefs. I think the highlight of that was the digging up Oswald just before the movie came out. Was this 89, 88, 89?
Like that, yeah.
It was just horrendous, and just because based on a belief, they basically dug him up to see whether it was actually him. Because
I think that might have been earlier. Wasn't it earlier?
I don't know. It was just before the time. I thought it was in the late 80s.
Yeah, it could be. Could be. I lose track of time on it. But that was a British author, investigator.
Amazing how he managed to basically persuade these people to basically dig him up.
I suppose because he's British, he was able to have that extra influence.
He had that extra mileage. Do you not find it frustrating when you basically investigate the CIA and there's just no clear, direct answer? I mean, I've got direct answers from FBI and DPD and so forth. But
no, I just think it's my my expectation is that's exactly what I'm going to find. You know, it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy. You know, I don't expect the agency to, you know, let me get into their pants, so to speak, without effort. You know, it's got to be work. You know, otherwise you're not going to get anywhere in a meaningful way. I mean, the great help is coming with some of the releases. I mean, when people say to me, from what I've seen, there's nothing in there. You know, oh, there's nothing in there. That's the other mantra. Ooh, there's nothing in there. Well, you know, for me there is. You know, because I'm seeing stuff about their systems and structures, how they work, how they interrelate, and that's very helpful. It gives a greater understanding about certain personalities that we're interested in. You know.
But it's just incredibly difficult to basically trying to figure out, and then the amount of effort you actually put in there. So I'm just thinking as a layman, how much time do you have to spend on this, trying to figure out where you get the tiniest thing basically thrown at you, and you go, did I put that many hours into this?
You know, and sometimes the information doesn't come in the form of release documents. It comes to you from retirees, you know, old timers that. I wouldn't say let slip, but I mean I think they sometimes let things go.
It's a long time ago.
Which are really important. You know.
Have you? Can we just talk about that? Let's talk about the retirees. Who's the first one that you spoke to?
Well, for a long while I made it a rule that I did. You know, I think I was listening to certain researchers that I thought had credibility. I still do. And the idea was, well, you're not going to get anything out of these people. You know, you're just wasting your time. You know, because they're just going to lie through their teeth to you, or they're just, you know, divert you or send you somewhere else or whatever. You know,
mm-hmm. So you didn't do it for a while.
No. And then I thought there was the other thing. If you associated with former CIA people in particular, I mean, I remember I did talk to Robert Gemberlin, you know, the FBI chief of head of Dallas. He was special agent in charge in Dallas, so I did talk to Bob Gemberlin. And I think that gave me a bit of impetus, because then you don't see these people as just like some sort of block of disinformation people. They're human beings as well. You know, I think I don't know if I described his office, Gemberlin's office, and on the wall behind on the wall was a Purple Heart, given to him for when he fought at Iwo Jima.
Wow. Wow.
And but he was very understated about that. And I remember pointing to the Purple Heart, and he said, "Oh, I didn't get out of the water. I didn't make it out of the water." He said he was wounded. In other words, before he got it. Like a lot of, they were either wounded or killed at Iwo Jima, as you know.
Yeah.
But I think that probably stirred something about maybe I should be speaking to these people. And so I talked to a few people in the early, mid-2000s. But really, seriously, I think it was, you know, the Pete Bagley thing where I got going. And because Pete was quite generous in recommending me to other people, including Bill Hood, William Hood, who was a senior counterintelligence officer. And John Vincent Abidian, who was like, he was a very Abedian was in the Moscow embassy. He was a security officer, State Department security officer, and maybe, and he lived in well, he lived in Brussels, but he also lived in Florida. He had a home in Florida as well. So, and I got to him just at the point of time when he was losing his eyesight. He was going blind. And I remember the first time I met him, I was with visiting Pete in Brussels. He said, let's go and have some lunch at the tennis club. So we go from his apartment down to the tennis club to the beautiful restaurant there. And Mr. Abedian was there. And so, taking my courage in both hands, at one stage during the meal, during the lunch, we had, I said to him, were you State Department or were you CIA? Which was like,
just ask the question, yeah, like you do.
It's a loaded question. He put his knife and fork down, and he said to me, Malcolm, said, in this world there are some things you need to know. He said, and what you need to know is you don't need to know.
That's what he said.
For an answer?
He said that.
How's that
You
for
don't
an
need to
answer?
know. That was his answer.
That was an answer.
And then,
of course, I told me he was a spook. Yeah.
And then but then it goes quiet.
By not answering.
Why are you
by
all
not
laughing?
answering
Mm-hmm.
in a straightforward way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it then go quiet around the table? Or?
No.
No?
We were busy. Pete just absolutely collapsed. He's just like laughing, laughter. So yeah, I mean, I think it's. I would recommend it, but it's for each person to decide. I think. I mean, Alan and I've got a guy that, as you probably know, he was a 30-year veteran of covert operations. He's a good friend, and I think, like a lot of old CIA people, you get responses where they almost talk in riddles. You don't. The answers aren't exactly clipped, perfect sentences, which mean something. I always remember when I introduced Alan to him first time. We're in a car in Arlington, and so he's in the back, Alan's driving, I'm alongside Alan, and he takes his old flip phone out, dials a number, and then turns the volume up, and it's me on a CIA voicemail, because you have a voicemail service, you see. So he's obviously dialed his CIA voicemail service, and it's me leaving a message from 8 years before. 8 years! On a bloody flip phone. Old flip phone.
That was 20 years ago.
That was in... When did we... That was 2016. 2016.
Right, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
8-year-old message, just like that.
Just
Boom.
like that, yeah, boom. And I said to him, we were in the car, and I had a conversation with him long ago about Santo Trafficante in his involvement with the agency. And anyway, we were driving there along, and he... so I said to him, I thought, wow, I'll put a sprat out to see if I can catch a mackerel. And I said to him, I know what Santo Trafficante, because he'd said to me previously, what was Santo Trafficante doing in Saigon in 1966? And I said to him in the car, and I said to him, I know what Santo Trafficante was doing in Saigon in 1966. And he went, oh! Like that. He suddenly woke up. he got this squeaky voice, and he said to me, what was he doing? What was he doing? Tell me. Like that. And I said, he was doing business. And then he went, yes, but what business? What business? So, you have some funny moments with these guys. You have some funny moments.
Yeah, but they can't give you the secrets anyway. I mean, that's
well,
one thing.
They can shuffle you around, and you could draw conclusions sometimes. And whether those are the right conclusions or the wrong conclusions, that's another matter.
Just when you think you figured it all out, you couldn't have been further removed from the truth.
Yeah. But I think, sometimes you do get significant information.
So, Pete Beckley was probably your most significant catch.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe it's a catch. I don't know. It was not an easy start. It was a difficult start, I think, but because he's wedded to the Oswald did it. He was wedded to the Oswald did it thing.
Yeah.
You get the old catchphrase, about it was a junk rifle, a poor shot. Was like, oh well, everyone gets lucky one time. Everyone gets lucky one time. So you got that. But then everything, we set aside our differences and just went,
Anyone else?
Yeah, there was a guy that was. I thought he gave me the most useful information. That was. He was in a CIA station in Paris.
In?
Paris, during the period.
Right.
And I asked him, the question I asked him was, we were on the bench, it was like a gathering, and one of the keynote speakers, it was funny, I had a old Special Forces trainer next to me. And this was at the Raleigh Spy Conference.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
When
Pete was prevented from speaking.
They're great venues. Those, you could talk to me. You could actually talk to the people releasing documents. They had a table set up, and you could talk to those people about document releasing.
Did you?
So I did. Yeah. But in the evening before the main conference, there was the keynote speaker that came in was General Hayden, Mike Hayden,
mm-hmm.
And NSA chief and CIA chief at that time, I think. No, he'd retired. He was just into private business. And the old Special Forces guy next to me, he looked at him as he came in, and in like a very disgusted tone, he turned to me and he said, "Look at the creases in his pants."
Really? That's the only thing you could observe?
That's the only thing he noticed. These like razor sharp creases. Very funny guy. Anyway, the other guy, the Paris guy, the station guy that was in the Paris station, said to me that I asked him the question. The question I asked him was, what exactly does the Office of Security inside CIA do? What does it do? And I got this instant reply that was pretty much anything they want to do, with a big smile. Pretty much anything they want to do. Well, you have to understand that, because if you read all the espionage books, all the Officer Security does is polygraphs and background checks. So you got it there in one sentence. One sentence. It's got a very broad brush. It can do
Whatever it likes.
whatever it likes.
Yeah.
Great information, really.
In what aspect were those conversations that you've had with all these people beneficial to you going through the documentation as such? How is that like additional info, or how can you verify? Can you verify documentation that you've had and say, hey?
Yeah, I put the stuff down in front of officers, certain people, and I think that does elicit. I mean, because their mindset is back then. Pete Bagley in particular was absolutely horrified at some of the documents. You know, he's just shook his.
Yeah, they're a
shook
secret
his head.
organization. Yeah.
We're supposed to be a secret organization.
Yeah.
He's just like, and I'm showing a color copy of some of his cables, so with his signature on, completely unredacted.
Did he go quiet, or was it like?
I think in some respects, he was he was definitely interested, obviously, but the piece of him that was uneasy was the fact that this stuff was being released.
Yeah. Out in the open.
On block.
Yeah.
You know, I think he obviously wanted more information on Yuri Nosenko as that came out, and there was a lot released. But sometimes you get caught in a almost like a vortex of things, which you can't really when you look back, you can't quite work out what happened. I think in particular, I talked to a historical review group officer about the whole Nosenko business, which was, I mean, it's supposed to be settled history, but it's not settled history. There's still this schism within the agency, and there's still people in the agency on one side and on the other, although mostly the majority are in the Nosenko camp. That he was a genuine defector and badly mistreated. So I'm talking to a lady officer, CIA officer, with the historical review group, and she's got all the remaining Nosenko documents in her office in 2 safes. So I said, well, a friend of mine in Belgium, lives in Brussels, is Pete Bagley. And she said, oh, like that thing. And she said, well, we're hoping to, what we're trying to do in the agency is do a final reconciliation so that everything is settled. And we'll be conducting interviews, historical interviews with people, and we're just trying to settle the Nosenko business once and for all. So I said to her, well, will you be speaking to Mr. Bagley? And she said, oh yes, we'll be going there. He never heard one word. Pete never got approached at all.
Everything was settled then.
Settled on one side. So, yeah, you do. It's funny when you look back at things.
So
because I went over, I visited people, so I got some exciting news. I said the agency are going to be in touch to interview you about, from the historical review group. They're going to come and talk to you. Never happened. Although she assured me she was like one of the leading people in that project, in the reconciliation project. You won't read anything about this, but that's what the attempt was. That was quite late.
is it for you, was it difficult for you to switch? I mean, okay, so you did what? Dallas, FBI, NARA, this, that, and the other. Now, when you did the Cuban thing, you already start to read CIA cables and documentation and so forth.
Yeah,
but then
I think that's where you get the delineation when you get into a lot of that Cuban stuff. You have to. It sort of sends you on a journey, and then you get to try and understand cables and then cable traffic and the meaning and what value there are in certain bits, certain information which is put onto cables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing, and I can, to an extent, I can understand and appreciate what these guys write, even though part of the language is still euphemistic and very few real details. Hey, we've got cryptonyms, we've got cover names, and so forth. So there's not just one cover, there's a second cover. But how do you, as a researcher, progress and basically go through this? And this is a different ball game. I mean, when you're looking at the crime in Dallas, we're talking about the rifle, we're talking about Oswald's previous affiliations, and so forth. Then you go into the Cuban thing, and then you all of a sudden start knowing about operations that only happened a few years prior, the assassination as such. This takes you into a total different environment, ballpark, as such. Then you go deeper with the Central Intelligence Agency, and basically what I always refer to as the mechanics inside.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah? But how does that progress? How do you...
Well, you're trying to understand what you're reading.
Yeah, I mean, how do you make sense of that?
I think it comes over time.
Is it because of the bulk?
Well, when I wrote your introduction, I said, what you have is persistence, and you have to have persistence.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done a body of work of which I'm pretty proud of, but at the same time I'm going, there's more.
Well,
There's more.
Well,
But every time.
What you're doing is mirror imaging.
But every time.
I do.
Yeah, every time I go, yeah, I've got it now. It's, I've got the picture together, blah, blah. 2 months later, didn't know about that. What about that? Oh, and what about this? I mean, originally the interrogation, there was a thing from Mae Brussel, that was about 7, 8 sentences, and that was seen as the authoritative thing on the interrogation as such. No one really bothered to go into this. And I was absolutely gobsmacked by the amount of material that was available. And I'm going, Mae Brussel did something that's basically something that, not dissing her, but just few people told her, and that she basically just relayed that as such. Whereas then you start looking into the documentation, and of course stuff is hidden at that time. Yeah, the Fritz interrogation notes don't come out till the mid-90s. The same thing with the Hosty notes. Partial bits come out during the Warren Commission, but still there's bits missing.
There's definitely, there's a gradual sort of drip. And we're still getting the drips. Hopefully there'll be more drip feeding in the next releases.
If there are any, yeah. Yeah, but I was just like, so I've got a pretty clear-cut picture or situation where I can just say, well, this is the situation, this is the environment, and I can try and move within that and trying to find out what such and such a person did and where did he go, and they had conversation with him and blah blah, etc. But with you, it's like with the agency and when all the euphemisms, the cryptonyms, the cover names, yeah, and the lingo, like in the basement, things like that for people that are under deep cover. Sheep dipping is another one.
Yeah, but, so important to get the in the basement colloquialism. If you don't understand that, you don't know jack shit. Sorry. you really.
So what are the cryptonyms?
Kryptonym is that AM mug.
Oh, Amlash. That's
Yeah,
it.
those are the cryptonyms.
There's code names for
Yeah.
specific people or,
Yeah, but
or operations.
no, but you think that's a code name for a particular person. It's actually a code name for an alias for that particular person. So there's like two levels of protection. So if you find out one, there's still that. And then, to this day, there are names that people go, well, we think it's such and such, but there's nothing like concrete that says like, oh yeah, it's him. He's got that name.
But that one internal
More suspicion.
bit of CIA speak is that you just mentioned in the basement means such a lot. If you've got that knowledge, you understand what's going on, because a particular person might be involved in when an agency person says to you in the basement, it means deep cover. He's doing something on a deep cover basis. It's probably what they call unacknowledged project, which is further along the line prescribed and limited. So that information is like kept only within a few people.
Yeah.
In the basement.
Very
So
hush
you
hush.
don't ask. Even if you're another officer, if you're another CIA guy, you don't ask. I always remember that I was in a dialogue with Pete that we went through. I had all the names of the people that worked in his section in counterintelligence, Soviet Russia. I had all the names, including the secretaries. I had everybody's name. And we went through the list, and we got down to Paul Dillon, a guy called Paul Dillon. He's a very well-known agency officer. I think he went to India eventually. Chief of station in India, I think. And he said, Paul, yeah, he went to Mexico City, and hooked up with Bill Bright. You know, that was a very well-known Soviet division officer that worked in Mexico City. So I thought that was interesting. And then he said he was in the basement. And you know, I must have looked at him like,
What?
what the fuck does that mean? Like, you know, what, in the basement? And he said, he looked at me and he said, well, you don't ask. Malcolm, you don't ask. You just don't ask. In other words,
When somebody says that, that's it.
that's it.
You don't start prodding for questioning and stuff like that, because it will get you in hot water.
It's colloquial language, internal to the agency, internal to people that work within the agency, and it's so important. If you see that reference anywhere in a conversation, in a transcript, you know you really latched onto something. I've done that a couple of times. You know.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But you didn't press on.
I'm working on it.
No, but you know, I think these are like particular code things that A, it's deep cover, and B, shut up. We don't discuss
We're
this.
not discussing it.
Yeah, it's just a dead end right here.
I mean, that's even. He was obviously the chief of counterintelligence, and but he respected the fact that the guy that worked for him was involved in that. So it's like when he said to me, "You don't ask. You just don't ask, Malcolm. You just don't ask." He emphasised that when you knew somebody was working in the basement, that's what that meant.
It's actually like lifting a little tip of the veil, isn't it? I mean, of an actual secret, without the specifics, but it's like
Without the specifics.
a secret mechanism.
Yeah.
You know, that's what that sounds to me. I mean,
Yeah, it's a big thing.
we could be dead wrong, but you know.
No, I mean that's a big thing. I think a big thing. That if you come across anything in a transcript, some guy talking, some spook talking, and you get a reference to that, you know you're onto something immediately.
Yeah. Now, going back to CIA research, has that made you look differently at your earlier research as such because of the way they communicate, what they do, and so forth, and by seeing, and you know what, I've already stated the difference between, say, FBI documentation and CIA documentation, but does it change your perception as such, or are you processing things differently because of that? Or do you just read the document in the exact same way as you did, say, for instance, at the time that you were working with
I
Armstrong?
don't think it, on the early stuff, I don't think it has any material effect. No, I don't think so. It just gives you a greater understanding about. I mean, it's you could argue it's a long way from Dealey Plaza. It's a long way from the assassin, but in some ways it's not, because I think you have to understand agency speech and agency thinking. You know, if you don't get that, you know, you're not getting anything really. In other words, if you look at a document, you have to understand a cable. You have to understand that it's written in disguised language, often in disguised language. It's opaque. It's meant to be opaque. The people at the other end are going to pick up on what you're writing.
Yeah, and also we don't want to have evidence. I mean, I think that's one of the lessons they learned from Guatemala from '54. That whole coup thing. That's what they said. You don't write everything down.
The problem is, everything is written down.
Yeah, but I mean, but published.
No, not yeah, correct. Not published, not released. When you go to, there is one operational file release, which I think we've spoken about before, which is the Bayo Pauli files, which were of that Cuban raid, and Ted Shackley was involved in others. When you look at the Bayo Pauli files, it's an operational file. It's the only operational file that I know of that's been released. And it's dense, clear English language. You could understand why CIA does not want that stuff released, because really
It gives it all away.
It gives it all away. Whereas the other stuff is just like opaque stuff.
We'll never know.
Oh God, you sound like.
You know
I think we're making progress. I think we're making progress.
You know what? I enjoy reading about it. I don't. You know what? When I read about this in the late 90s, it used to piss me off, and that's why I walked away from it. I walked away from it for more than 10, 12 years, because I was just fed up with all the conspiracy blather. And at that time, in the '98, internet wasn't great, you know. So when you wanted to see things, on top of that, all the stuff you now take for granted being online and accessible quickly, didn't exist. It didn't start happening slowly until about 2010, when I started to slowly get an interest again into things and started to read about it.
Yeah.
And you know, and that to me as well, my time being away from it and then going back into it helped me to be more specific in my wants and what I wanted to read about and so forth, because I think I spent about a year trying to figure out what I was going to do on the 50th anniversary, because I put this multi-touch application together. And it was on everything, on the rifle, on Zapruder, on the Nix film, and you name it. It was all different things in there. And then I was like, if you want to do something, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, to me, the only thing is, where was Oswald during the shooting? He wasn't up on the 6th floor. Where was Oswald? And then at the same time, that whole debate of Prayer Man started to evolve and could happen. And I was like, that's the subject. Because if anything can clear his name or the case or break the case wide open, it would be Prayer Man. Because I'm thinking, if Oswald gets recognized and seen, properly identified, then everything else needs to be looked at again, and or everything can be taken with a massive grain of salt because everyone's been lied to all that time, and slowly but surely, we know all that, and also at the same time, nobody gives a toss anymore. I mean, it's 60 odd years ago.
Well,
It just falls into the same group as World War II. It's a thing of history. It won't change. It won't change the thing anymore.
It is, but it isn't. You could see the amount of interest in the press and the media about as soon as not all the documentation was documentation was not released. So they created a furore, in the press. They were feeding frenzy almost. They were like, people. What are they hiding? All this stuff. That's.
Yeah, but you know what? Every time that happens, they always they have people on camera who I've never heard of or ever seen. Yeah, and I'm going, who made you expert? Who the fuck are you? And then, and they just talking with authority and suit and tie and blah, the whole spiel right in front of everybody. And I'm like, and that's the funny part, because actually the people that actually know about it and that are the scholars as such, they never get asked on television. They go, so what does that mean? Well, that means such and such in comparison with that and that. Oh, right, okay. That would have been, oh, right. All those years, yeah, we have been lied to and so forth, and it's been hidden and so forth, etc., etc. I mean, I don't know. I've tried. I'm glad I only focus on one thing. What you've done is just ginormous, the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, yeah. My friends ask me, like, "Oh, what about this archive?" I do, dude. I can write 20 books with this archive. If I just focus on things, if I say I'll do one on New Orleans, and I'll do one on Chicago, and one on the Secret Service, and I'll do one on Cuba, and I'll do, etc. There's so much material basically to plow through, and it's very daunting. I mean, documents are daunting. A book is nice and easy and comfortable. The writer takes you on the journey instead of just that nightmare scenario of just having a pile of documentation that high in front of you and go on, make sense of that. And you'll be going.
Well, you get into areas where document interpretation is like another thing.
Yeah, but
you can draw conclusions from one document.
Yeah.
I can look at the same document and draw different conclusions.
But now we've got AI, so it can summarize documents in a quite clear and concise language. I think that helps. Searching documentation for it, key elements.
Well, you certainly want AI with a lot of the CIA stuff. If you could put it into plain English.
That's probably possible, yeah, probably. But it will be quite a job to do that and to look into things. I'm trying to connect it to the Blonde Archive. So if you click on a document, I want a summarization right on the side in the browser.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, that. And the thing is, I can do it with certain things, with websites, this, that, and the other, but I haven't been able to do it yet. But as soon as I see it happening and it's possible, I'm going to install it and tell people about it, because, certain documents are, 200, 200, 300, 400 pages big? Yeah? Go on, summarize that for me in 2 pages with bullet points. It's brilliant. And I think that's really good about the whole artificial intelligence matter, especially when it comes to large swaths of text to go through, instead of having to read the whole thing. That's where it could be really, really helpful.
It's amazing.
Yeah. All right. Short talk. I've had enough. Malcolm's had enough. Have we had enough?
No. I wanted to sort of like at least touch on stuff which should be released, and it doesn't seem to be.
What stuff?
That works well. I keep banging on about it, but the post 1993 FBI files.
Oh, that yeah.
Yeah, that definitely needs to be. We need to know what's happened to that stuff. For you, as a looking at Dallas stuff, it would be a gold mine. Where is that?
Refer to our listeners and viewers just quickly about these 1993 FBI files. How did this start? It's after the movie, of course, when the movie came out. Did the FBI start investigating?
They did their releases up until 1993. So you have, I think it's the first JFK conferences that are taking place, really,
Right.
in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Coincided, and they did the conference that they were really reporting on was the one at the Reunion Arena, or what's the name of the hotel there? Sheraton, is it? The big hotel there by Reunion Arena. Anyway, that hotel hosted the conference and the participants, and the FBI reported on it. They reported the various speakers, individual researchers.
All the subversives.
All the subversives. But, I think it would be just great to look at the stuff post-1993 relating to the FBI files in Dallas, the 89A files.
89A?
Yeah,
What's that?
that was a file number, which was a later file number, which would contain the post-1993 information.
So, we suspect basically that FBI was surveilling certain researchers as such?
Well, I think we'd be doing their job. That's
Yeah.
what they were doing.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, just looking at people.
I'm not accusing.
It's, I think in Dallas it's still, or in Texas it's still an open case, isn't it?
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah, so it's an open case.
Yeah.
So they've got every right to look at it ad infinitum. Just keep looking, So they'd be monitoring all the stuff. They'd still be receiving information from the public, photos from the public, tape recordings from the public, witness statements from the public, people that never came forward. It's an important group of a whole swathe of stuff. We desperately need to see it, really. And, I've asked from time to time at the National Archives, and, just goes in here and out of there.
Do you still get responses to your FOIAs?
No, I've had nothing. Not for a long while.
Because you must have quite a few
I
outstanding.
had a lot in. In 2016 I put a lot in,
Yeah?
but I've heard nothing.
Time for a reminder. It's been 8 years. Come on, get your finger out. Yo, Nara, sort it out.
Yeah, we were blessed by a person in our, two people really. We had the 1997 archivist for about 1 year, John W. Carlin.
Yeah.
And he was very open-minded, very good, terrific guy, I think. Perfect for the National Archives from a research point of view, if you're a researcher. And then he went, and then of course everything fell apart at that high level. There was nobody was at that level was being very proactive. He was very proactive. And then at a lower level, we had a guy came in 2000. If you were in a research room and you wanted to question why a document was not released, he would get in touch with the agency, CIA or FBI or wherever, and say,
Where is it?
where is it? Or can we look at this again? Great. Someone that was really...
Who volunteered his efforts.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
I mean, otherwise I think it's not a healthy environment for researchers.
I've got to try it out.
You get lip
these ones.
service. People pay lip service to the fact that they're helping, and sometimes they do give certain people, certain authors, they give help to. If you're someone that's digging through their dirty laundry, they're not going to help you that much.
Yeah. All right, on that note,
Again.
let's give it one more try. Thank you all, and we'll continue next year. Wish you all a great holiday season, lovely Christmas, all the best for 2025. Bart Camp signing off. Malcolm Blunt, thank you very much. Peter Antil,
Thank you.
thank you. Bye-bye.